Hello, Croeso Fulcher. Welcome back to the channel, old boy here, and today I'm at Corbridge Roman town, which is located in the northeast of England, close to Hadrian's Wall. And I've brought you here today to read out my translation of an excerpt from Bibliotheca Historica by Diodorus Siculus. Let's get into it. They say that of the Greeks, Linus was to be the first discoverer of rhythm and song. Yet Cadmus, having first introduced the named letters from Phoenicia, placing them into the Hellenic language, both arranged a name for each and gave the letters a lasting form. So on the one hand, the letters are commonly called Phoenician, by reason of them being transferred from the Phoenicians to the Greeks. But on the other hand, they were in origin called Pelasgian, the Pelasgians having first made use of the transferred letters. And Linus, honoured for his poetic licence and music, had many students, the three most prominent being Heracles, Thammuras, and Orpheus. Concerning Orpheus, the third student, we shall record the individual parts whenever we go through his achievements in detail. Now they say that Linus, using the Pelasgian letters, arranged the achievements of the first Dionysus as well as other legends, leaving them in his commentaries. And Orpheus similarly used these Pelasgian letters, as well as Pronopides, the teacher of Homer, having become a graceful lyric poet. And in addition to these men, Thumoetes, son of Thumoetes, son of Laomedon, having been born during the lifetime of Orpheus, wandered through the many places of the inhabited world, crossing into the western land of Libya as far as the ocean. And beholding Nusa, where the ancient inhabitants say in their stories was the place in which Dionysus was reared, and having learnt from the Nusians each achievement of this god, he composed the poem, which is named Phrygian, having used an archaic style in both the dialect and the letters. Okay, now it's time for some linguistic analysis. First up, I just want to look at the section which says Linus was the first of the Greeks to discover rhythm and song. Now the word being used here is Helesi, a dative form of Hellene, which the LSJ tells us is the name of Hellene, the son of Deucalion, who built the ark to survive the flood, which we looked at in the last episode. Roman numeral number 2 tells us that the masculine nominative plural form of the word Hellenes is used to describe the Thessalian tribe of which Hellene was the reputed chief. And below this, it shows the term is used to describe the Greeks. Next, I just want to look at the word used to describe the Pelasgians. The text uses the word Pelasgos, which the LSJ shows means Pelasgian. Interestingly, it also says the term is used generally for Greeks. Additionally, this entry also gives us an example of where the term is used, Tersenoi Pelasgoi, with Tersenoi or Tersanians being an Ionic dialectic form of a word which means Turanians. Now this term was used to describe a group of seafaring pirates, as can be seen in the Homeric hymn to Dionysus. Quote, I will tell you of Dionysus, the son of glorious Semele, how he appeared on a jutting headland by the shore of the fruitless sea, seeming like a stripling in the first flush of manhood. His rich dark hair was waving about him, and on his strong shoulders he wore a purple robe. Presently there came swiftly over the sparkling sea Tersanian pirates on a well-decked ship, and miserable doom led them on. When they saw him, they made signs to one another, and sprang out quickly, and seizing him straightway, put him on board their ship exultingly, for they thought him the son of heaven-nurtured kings. End quote. Later, Strabo tells us the Turanians, whom the Turanian Sea is named for, received the name Etruscans. Quote, the Turani have now received from the Romans the surname of Etrusci and Tusci. The Greeks thus named them from Tyrannus, the son of Attis, as they say who sent hither a colony from Lydia. Attis, who was one of the descendants of Hercules and Omphale, had 2 sons in a time of famine and scarcity, and it was determined by lot that Lydus should remain in the country, but that Tyrannus, with the greater part of the people, should depart. Arriving here, he named the country after himself, Tyrrhenia, and founded 12 cities, having appointed as their governor Tarchon, from whom the city of Tarquinia received its name. End quote. Next, if we look at the middle little entry for Pelasgos, it says the following, quote, "A Pelasgian. The Pelasgians appear among the allies of the Trojans. We hear of them in Crete, but in the Iliad, Achilles prays to the Dodonian Zeus as Pelasgian, and to Pelasgian Argos was Thessalian Argos, the original seat of the Hellenes. Herodotus contrasts them with Hellenes, but the term Pelasgoi is used for Greeks in Euripides and Virgil." End quote. Now this is really interesting, as we keep getting connections to Thessaly, the place where Deucalion was said to rule prior to the flood. And this notion is strengthened with the lexicon entry for Pelasgikos, which is another variation of the term which is used in the text, which according to the LSJ means Thessalian. Next, I just want to look at some of the names of some of the other people who were using these Pelasgian letters. Apart from the text saying that Pronopides, the teacher of Homer, used them as well as Orpheus, the text says that Thumoites also utilised them. The LSJ describes Thumoites as a Trojan chief and the son or grandson of Laomedon, who in turn is described as the father of Priam, king of Troy. And this is interesting when considering the previous LSJ entry, which referred to the Pelasgians as allies of the Trojans in the Iliad. Finally, I just want to look at a note left by the editor of the Loeb translation of this text, which discusses these Pelasgic letters, commenting on how the letters found in the palace of Cadmus, which was dated to between 1400 and 1200 BC, were not Semitic in origin, a notion which seemingly corroborates Diodorus in his notion that the letters were not Phoenician in origin. Quote, "As our knowledge of the history of the development of the Greek letters has increased in recent years, and as early Phoenician and Semitic inscriptions have come to light, all the evidence confirms the Greek tradition that their alphabet was derived from the Phoenician. The question now is, how early did the Phoenician letters appear on the Greek mainland? The palace of Cadmus, if Cadmus is a historical figure, has been discovered in Thebes and may be roughly dated to around 1400 to 1200 BC, and letters were found in it, but they were not of Semitic origin." End quote. So what is going on here? We have seen the term Pelasgian being used to refer to the Greeks. The Pelasgians are also described as allies of the Trojans in the Iliad. They are also associated with the Etruscans, and Cadmus, a Phoenician, also has the Pelasgian letters. Are the Pelasgians in fact the ancestors of all these people, spreading out to different regions in the wake of a natural disaster and assimilating with the native inhabitants of each region? Over time, their culture and language would become more and more unique, and this could explain why their earliest letter forms are so similar. Was this story in fact a reintroduction of letters to the Greeks, which they lost during the flood? Diodorus certainly has more to say about this, and we'll be exploring it further in the next episode. In the meantime, please do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks again to everyone who supports me and this channel, it's much appreciated. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one. Old boy, out.